very warm good afternoon to everyone. Today we are going to study and discuss the first poem of class 12 Flamingo, My Mother at 66. This is a very beautiful poem written by a prolific writer, Kamala Das. Kamala Das, who was born in the year 1934 in Kerala, was recognized as India's one of the most lyrical and prolific writers. And in her life, her mother, who herself was a great writer, had a great influence on Kamala Das. And in this particular poem, she's talking about her love, her bonding with her mother, and the complex human relationship, especially the relationship between the mother and a daughter. And she touches upon various other themes like aging, the fear of losing one's near and dear ones, the fear of separation, and things like that. So we would first of all read the poem and then we would discuss about it. The poet says, she addresses to the audience and she says, "Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me, doze, open-mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked, but soon put that thought away, and looked out at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. But after the airport's security check, standing a few yards away, I looked at her again, worn, pale as a late winter's moon, and felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. But all I said was, 'See you soon, Amma.' All I did was smile and smile and smile." So the poet here has visited her parents' home and now she's going back. And while going back, she's traveling by car and her mother is sitting beside her. And she's going to the airport, and while she's traveling, she just gazes at her mother. She looks at her mother and who's sitting beside her, and she sees, and she's shocked to see her mother's face, and her mother is dozing. What is dozing? She's just having a light sleep, and she feels that her mother looks, her face looks very grey, very pale, like the color of ash, and she realizes that her mother has got very old, and her face looks like the color of ash, and she compares it with a dead body. That is why she says ashen like that of a corpse, and she shudders at this thought, the thought that her mother is getting old, the thought that her mother is dying, and she is feels helpless. She feels guilty that she's not been able to take care of her mother properly. She feels guilty that she's not been able to spend more time with her mother, and she feels shocked also to see her mother in that state. And she puts that thought away, and she says, as she looked at her, she was as old as she looked. But soon she put that thought away because she didn't want to have that feeling inside her heart. She didn't want to realize that her mother was going to die soon. So she just tries to put it away from her mind, and she looks outside. And what does she see outside? She looked out at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. Trees sprinting means running fast. Now as we are traveling by car or by any other vehicle, we feel, when we are rushing past, we feel as if the trees are rushing or running in the opposite direction. So this is what she sees, and she sees happy children rushing out of their homes. So you see, there is a total contrast, there is a stark contrast between the scene inside the car and the scene that she witnesses outside the car. The scene inside is her mother old age, grey, turning pale, and her body and her face looks like the color of ash, looks like that of a corpse. And the scene outside, what is the scene outside? It is full of life, with children rushing out, full of life, full of enthusiasm, full of vigor, full of gaiety. So this is what she sees, and she just tries to focus on that. But then when she reaches the airport, after the formalities are done, after the airport security check, after her baggage is checked and each and everything is done, and while she's standing a few yards away, she again looks at her mother, and she sees her pale face. Her face is totally worn. Worn is colorless. It is totally colorless, pale, and the poet here draws a very beautiful comparison of the mother's face, and she says, as a late winter's moon. The waxing and waning of the moon. Waning of the moon. The color of the moon is totally faded. As in late winters because of the fog, and it is this is a symbol of approaching death. And she felt that old familiar ache, the childhood fear, her childhood's fear. As a child, she might have felt that she would be separated from her mother. Many of the children do have the same feeling, the fear that they would be separated from their parents. But that fear again revisits her. She's again reminded of that fear that she would be separated from her mother. But all I said was, see you soon, Amma, and all I did was smile and smile and smile. Now these are her parting words. She has a very unemotional kind of a parting with her mother. There's no hugging, and she just the parting words are, see you soon. Now what is the poet trying to do here? She's just trying to reassure herself, and more, she's trying to reassure her mother that she's going to see her soon. The next time she would be coming, then she would see her mother. And she says, all I did was smile and smile and smile. Now this smile is a kind of an artificial smile that she puts on. It's a kind of a hollow smile, again because it emphasizes her helplessness, and also the feeling by which she wants to reassure herself and her mother that they're going to meet again. They're going to meet soon. So this was the poem My Mother at 66 by Kamala Das. Now in this particular poem, we have various poetic devices like simile. And the various examples of simile are, you can find the examples of simile wherein the poet says, ashen, her face ashen like that of a corpse. This is one example of simile. Okay, and then as her face pale as a late winter's moon, wherein the poet compares the face of the mother with the late winter's moon. Then another poetic device that we have in this poem is imagery. Now we have the imagery of trees sprinting. The moment we read this line, we get the image of trees rushing past and the merry children spilling, the children rushing out of their home. So this all is symbolic of this. This is also personification, and this is imagery. And how is it personification? Because the trees are here shown to be sprinting, to be running. So this is personification as well as imagery, because the image of trees rushing past, the moment we read these lines, this image comes to our mind. And then towards the end of the poem, the last line, we have the poetic device repetition, wherein the poet says, smile, all I did was smile and smile and smile. Now this is repetition, a poetic device which the poets normally use to stress, to emphasize upon a certain point. And herein Kamala Das is trying to emphasize upon the fact, she's trying to reassure herself, and she's also trying to reassure her mother that they're going to meet soon.